Good afternoon to everyone. My name is John Clipper Bermanes, and I will be reporting the topic 8 CSR is not for profit organization. A not for profit organization, or NFP, organization is one whose objective is to support or engage in activities of public or private interest without any commercial or monetary profit. It means, like in many countries, came will be charities, but there will also be many which are not. The next one is the not government organization or NGO is legally constitute organization operates without any participation or representation of any government. So in the cases of NGO are funded totally or partially by government. The NGO they maintains its non-governmental status insofar as it exclude government representatives from membership in the organization. 8.1. It is important to consider the nature of the sector. The, the for-profit organization or NFP sector is one which is growing in importance all over the world. Moreover, is much bigger than a people generally realize. Like for example, it is estimated that the sector comprises around, for example, 40% of GDP. So in this chapter, we will explore the distinctive nature of the sector and consider the implication of for CSR. Second one, in this world, there is an unknown such organization in India. Alone, for example, it is estimated between 1 million and 2 million such organization exist. In short, there will be some are very large, such as government institution and the largest charity, but many are very small. Next one is 8.2 distinguishing features of a sector. The first thing we must remember about this sector is that there is no profit motive and decision must be taken according to the different criteria. Instead, the emphasis is upon the provision of a service which is essential reason for the existence such an organization. In additionally, there is normally a disconnection between the acquisition of resources and their use. In other words, the money to provide the service normally does not came from the recipient of their service. This means that there are different motivation, okay, operating in NFP. It also means that the stakeholders are different something which we will return to us. It is important for our consideration of CSR in such organization. The next one is 8.3. The types of NFP organization. We can classify NFP into various types which has a different purposes. So in this chapter, we can see the different purposes of a NFP organization. These are the example. 8.3.1 Public bodies. These are related to government in some way and include such thing as a local authority and health authority. These NFP organization are all have the function of providing services to members of a society, and they receive their funding and powers directly from the national government. Next is 8.3.2 Quasi-public body. This is also known as a quangus or quasi-autonomous non-governmental organization and serve as a public civic purpose without having direct relationship with the government. This organization has many civic societies are like this. In other example, included such thing as housing association. They're to open to get some funding directly from the government. The next one is 8.3.3 educational institution. As the name suggests, these serve educational function and included such organization as schools, further education college, and universities. This may be this this organization, this may be publicity owned organization or privately owned. the norm difference between countries. Like for example, there are so many educational institution, like example Peter Nograles program, like that, something like that. So there are the organization that provide um financial assistance without asking any any back from them. Okay, so the next one is 8.3.4, which is the charity. So as we recognize that the charity is exists to fulfill a particular function which involve providing services. For example, um, home for the agent, something like that. The charity, the that kind of organization to to help them to their health, to their finances, and etc. Other example is cancerous people. They charitize them, like for example public or private sector, to be able to help them in their medicines and etc. So before I end this my topic, I have a question. So what are the importance of NFP, or not for profit organization? So for me, the not for profit organization, well, me for me it's important. Why? Because not profit organization is play a vital role in building healthy. Okay? In building healthy communities by providing critical service that contribute to economic stability and mobility. They also strengthen communities other in other words, it's important way frequently and not profit leaders are the voice of the people they serve. That's all. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Micaela Gatchalian, and this is the continuation of Chapter 8, 8.4 Motivation for NFPs. Many organizations and charities that work to help a community who are in need, and one of these types of organization is the NFP. NFP stands for Not-for-Profit Organization, meaning owners is not earning profit for their own. For example, I started an NFP organization, but I have nothing to earn from that. Whatever money is raised in that organization will only be used for the goals and objectives of my organization. An example of this is charities. NFP can accept donations for the continuance of the organization. And also, most NFPs are tax exempted, meaning they are not required to pay taxes. A non-profit organization cannot be formed if it does not have a goal or reason why it is intact. So this is where the motivation comes in. Usually, in a non-profit organization, what often motivates them is to help or be able to give something to a community. Having motivation can also help the organization to find a way to get the resources they need to give back the services that they are giving. Unlike profitable organizations, there are customers who decide whether to buy or not, while in a nonprofit, their way to last or to see if the process they are doing is right is through their performance. Thus, the determining of measures of performance is important for these organizations. So too is the setting of standards and the reporting of performance. This is normally done through the development of performance indicators. Often variety of measures are used including, first, budgetary control or cash flow. The money just goes around the organization. They receive donations or grants from government or individual. The cash flow of a nonprofit is same from the profit organization. They will show the use of fund. They do not have separate legal entity, meaning the owner's money can be used for the organization's expenses and the organization's money can be used for the owner's personal expenses. Second, performance indicators. Improving services by better understanding what works and what doesn't. obtaining more funding from donors, motivating and inspiring staff, and influencing the debate about what works and contributing to a sector-wide improvements. Third, non-financial measures. Fourth, qualitative factors. Let's proceed to 8.5, implications for managers. So since the main resources referred to in NFPs are the fund which has different sources, they should be more strategic in gathering the source of funds. First, there are the grants, maybe the goods in kind or service in kind depending maybe on the nature of the NFP, from different agencies. Cash donations from individuals or other organizations as well. The contributions and membership fees of the members of the organization are also available. Then fund and even loans, because maybe the source of fund is really the one who continues the NFPs. So for the continuance of the organization, they know where they will get the resources so that they can also carry out the objective of the organization. Another of their issues is the setting objectives. Of course, if they set an objective of organization, they should know what is attainable. They are ready for the needs, the staffs, funds, and connections for the programs and projects to be released by the organization. Measure of their performance is the raised money and donation, membership if it increases, number of visitors and people served, overhead cost, and of course if they achieve the organization's objective. Influence of stakeholders are the contributors for raising funds. Of course, if they do not have it, it is not possible to maintain their objective to make the mission of the program or project successful. In the external environment, they should know who their market is, what is needed to meet their target market. For example, if their mission is to build literacy skills program for homeless children, they should immediately consider where they can obtain and manage the supply of books, learning aids, space, and instructor. So just like in profit organizations, it is also really unavoidable to have competition between same not-for-profit organizations, especially when it comes to the supply of resources. Let's say that it happens when the two NFP organizations have the same mission, but the other one takes longer or runs longer. So since he is better known, it is only natural that there are more donations and everything, and because the longer organization helps, they are more prioritized by the contributors. Well, not everyone, because there are other NFPs who prefer collaboration over competition since there is only one mission, which is to help. Since a not-for-profit organization was formed to help to fulfill their mission without earnings, while there are other NFPs they say they are still continuing the organization even though they have already fulfilled their mission and they're just trying to continue. They extend its life purpose. So there are organizations that really just continue to grow. Maybe the managers can say that they consider the principle of going concern because as long as the NFP's management has the ability to meet its obligation, their loan just in case, and if they can really run the NFP organization for the next years. 8.6, available resources. Like what I have said earlier, the resources of the not-for-profit organizations are mainly from the government, and the rest is raising funds. There are some shopping centers that open to NFPs for seeking funds, like the Evergotesco Mall. They are one of those shopping centers that helping Red Cross to earn or gain funds. 8.7, structure of charity. As charities are a significant number of the organizations in the NFP sector, then we need to consider their structure in some detail. The first point to make is concerning the legal environment in which they operate. This can be described intra-vires rather than ultra-vires. The difference is as follows. If activity of company falls outside the company's capacity, it is said to be ultra-vires. They are free to make an activity that they want. Intra-vires is under control. That is why they are not prescribed to just create an activity without prior notice of the head. For example, The USSG planned an activity. They cannot just do the activity that they plan without the permission of the campus director, and once the activity they do is approved, they cannot simply change it and they cannot just extend the day of that activity. What is written and discussed should be what they will do. A charity has many tax and regulation advantages, but in return, there are certain restrictions on what it can do. Thus, a certain is not able to act as a pressure group, at least not overtly. Politics are excluded from its sphere of operation. It can engage in fundraising, of course, but it is prevented from trading as a means of raising funds. This might seem surprising given how many charities are visibly engaged in trading. This is done either through a third party or by means of a trading subsidiary, which then gives the proceeds to the charity. Thus these restrictions are legal restrictions to ensure that the benefits of being a charity can only accrue to an organization with a genuine charitable purpose, but they are interpreted fairly liberally for organizations which are recognized to be charities. The ultimate sanction, of course, is the removal of charitable status from such an organization. The final point to make about charities is that they make extensive use of volunteers as well as of paid employees. This keeps their operating costs down, for of course, but also adds another stakeholder group with an interest in and concern for how the charity operates, manages its performances, and services its beneficiaries. Moreover, the relationship between volunteers and paid employee is sometimes a source of conflict. 8.8 Accounting Issues. An issue of NFP about accounting is the donations they collect. The donations they collect is what they need to use for the activity they are going to do, because people will not give donations if a charity does not do any activity. Example is the donations about disaster relief operations. It seems that when a charity is in need, then people will also give donations.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bebelin Pawig, the third reporter of Chapter 11 CSR in Not-Profit Organization. 8.9 CSR issue in NFPS. All of these factors have implication as far as CSR is concerned. It's often thought that its organization exists for a public or charitable purpose, then it must be socially responsible organization. Our consider of issue throughout this book should have enable you to understand that is not necessarily that case. CSR is about how an organization conduct its operation and deal with its stakeholder. For NFPS, we can see that there are different focus and we need to this in terms of CSR implication. We can consider this according to this criteria. The CSR understanding is that there are often other people who just when they see an organization helping. For example, they help a charity automatic for other people socially responsible that immediately or they thinking that company has CSR, but that it's not CR. CSR is always like that because CSR is about being socially responsible, not just internal but more important is in their internal operation. So it say that CSR is about how an organization conduct its operation and deal with its stakeholder. 8.9.1 Stakeholder. There are different stakeholder for a not-for-profit organization, and the different stakeholder group have different amount of power to a profit-seeking organization. It's inevitable, therefore, that dealing with this stakeholder will be a much more important function for a NFP. Moreover, the source of conflict might be different and the action taken resolution of this might also be different. Inevitable also the decision-making process is likely to be different. In the NFP, there's stakeholder are different to other organization because stakeholder are those looking the income per organization, and dealing with this stakeholder will be much important function for NFP. 8.9.2 Sustainability. In terms of doing more with few resources, then this is always an objective for this kind of organization. In terms of affecting the choice available to future generation, then an NFP actually seek to do this and to redistribute resources more equitable in term of seeking a continually assistant, then really an NFP should strive to make its purpose of assistant no longer relevant and should not seek sustainability. The sustainability, this is equally important issue for this organization, but its implications are very different in terms of about motivation and decision making. The NFP, in principle of doing more with a small number of resources, they always have a purpose in this organization, especially to affect the decision that can be used in the future. Then the NFP is really the one who seek to do and can be given equally. 8.9.3 Accountability. Accountability is an even more important issue for this kind of organization, and who it's accountable to can be very different. Without either stakeholder or customer, when accountability is to donor, beneficiary, and a wide range of other stakeholder. Moreover, it needs to address this accountability, which can be different for different stakeholders, in order to be able to continue with these operations. Accountabilities relate to how much trust an organization can demonstrate. In a not-for-profit environment, there are multiple layers of responsibilities. When it's come to accountabilities, the organization is accountable to contributors or founders, program recipients, regulators, and the general public. These accountabilities varies as far as importance and applicability to each group based on the type of not-for-profit organization. For instance, a membership organization may be more accountable to this member. A social service organization may be more accountable to the recipients of this service. Contributors, governmental, or foundation founders, and an advocacy network may be more accountable to the general public or to center communities or group. 8.9.4 Transparency. With this diverse set of stakeholder groupings who all have considerable interest in the organization and this activity, then there is obviously a great need for transparency. And all much organization will strive for this. This is particularly exacerbated by the need to keep fund for a specific stricted purpose. On the other hand, this is the interest of the NFP to seek to use its accounting system and procedure to classify indirect costs as indirect, and thereby to minimize the apparently administrative costs incurred. This is contractually to the principle of disclosure by complete understandable. Transparency relate to make information enable to the public. Donor will have to organization that they trust will use their contribution wisely and are primarily concerned that the fund they contribute toward an organization's program or mission are properly spent. 8.9.5 Disclosure. Increasing disclosure is a feature as corporate reporting as they seek to satisfy stakeholder thought, increasing accountability and transparency. Disclosure has of course always been a feature of NFP activity as much disclosure is necessary to seek additional fund as well as to satisfy the diverse but powerful and vociferous stakeholder groupings. In this respect, there is might be considered that profit-seeking organizations are become more like not for-profit organization. In this disclosure of the activity or achievements of the NFP that are shown to the stakeholder and the good result of activity are encouraged to provide more fund to the NFP. 8.10 Conclusions. The environment in which not-for-profit organization operation is somewhat different but they are still CSR implication, which are mostly concerned with sustainability and with accountability. Particular figure of this environment are NFP is different organization operation but they are still have CSR. Certain resources availability it this effect on long-term planning. It's considered the effect for the long-term planning of organization. Stakeholder power and involvement. It's considered that stakeholder and involved in the organization. Conflict priority, legal environment, if the activity is legal to the environment. Managing ambiguity, if a lack of understanding and planning need management or managing to be organized.